my computer because I've been Zuckerberg. You've heard me say that before. Okay. Hi, everybody. Charlie and I would like to welcome you to Comic Spot. This is interview, I don't know, 1100 and almost 1200. Who cares? The interviews are not for me and my huge ego. I don't have self-esteem, you guys. So, we didn't grow up with self-esteem. So, us old people. So, I'm here to highlight people in the comedy world or adjacent to it and have you get to know them, fall in love with them, want to help support their career like you've been doing. And so today I have a fabulously funny guy. You got to catch him live. I want you to get to know him a little bit, so stay tuned. And you can always see these later or rewatch it later on my YouTube, which is Lynn Smith 2476, Lin Smith 2476. So here we go. Here's the interview. I hope you're all ready and have your pants on. Some of you don't know how to behave on Zoom. Okay. Calder Stokes, that's him over there, is a comedian based in New York City. When he isn't doing stand-up or chat GBTing homework assignments, he enjoys frying his brain cells watching Instagram reels and sleeping. You can see him every Friday at Broadway Comedy Club, as well as Trader Joe's and hopping various turnstiles around the city. So there you go. You wonder who jumps those turnstiles? Now you know. Let's welcome him to the stage right now to do his own very own personal interview. Calder Stokes. Woo!
Oh, thank you.
Love your name, Calder. Let's talk.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's talk about your name.
Mhm.
It probably came from like something called parents. Did they pick out your name?
Yep, they did. Yeah, I was named after Alexander Calder. He was like an artist. He made like a bunch of artwork that I didn't really enjoy, but my parents really liked it. And so yeah, that's been cool. Yeah, and Stokes is just like my parents' last name, I guess. And yeah, and it's actually like funny because I've been talking to my parents and stuff, and they've been like after I've been doing comedy, they've been like, "Hey, like it might be good to like have a stage name because like you're still in school, still trying to like, climb the corporate ladder." But then I was just yo, like I kind of understand it, but also like Calder Stokes is kind of a cool name. I've been trying to think about other names I could do and nothing really tops it. So like I think I really just have to put everything into this comedy thing and keep my real name.
I love that so much. So, where did Calder Stokes grow up? What?
So Calder Stokes, yeah, he had like I guess a weird kind of happening. So I was born in South Africa, Johannesburg, um, and then was adopted at 7 months old and lived I was like raised in the city, like Hell's Kitchen area, and then we moved to Yonkers when I was about like 11. And so then spent like the rest of my life in Yonkers. Um, yeah, and then
Yonkers isn't that pretty pasty white?
it's pretty so it's not really super pasty white. Like there's like a lot of rappers and stuff from Yonkers.
No
Uh,
way.
yeah, but I was in the pasty white like kind of district, if you will, uh, for my like whole growing up, which was interesting. Like I mean, like we're close to the city, so I like spent a lot of time in the city, and like a lot of my friends and stuff were people of color, which I think is the still the right term right now. Um, so yeah, never, like always associated myself with like, every culture and stuff. But yes, Yonkers is very pasty white.
Wow. You know, the term people of color, like we're not supposed to see color, so we'll just call them people of color.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah, and it's weird how it's like changed so much over time. Like it's like because like I have like grandparents, that grew up in whatever, like the 40s, and their terms are like, colored people and blacks. And that's like, nice. That's like better than the other words that they used back in the day.
Yes.
Now they have to kind of like reframe the way they say things and stuff. And it's weird because like half of my grandparents have been like good about that and been like, okay, like we're gonna like learn the lingo and stuff. The other half hasn't been so, accepting of that, but they begrudgingly, accept whatever we have to, say now.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's gonna be weird when like I'm kind of their age, like unless, the world ends, which it might. They have that clock at Union Square that says like how many days we have until climate change is unchangeable. Um, but I'm really interested to see how I kind of grow up and become my own like grandfather, I guess.
Absolutely. I know, the last thing I want to be is like my grandparents.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want. Even my parents,
Mhm.
I don't, we in in America,
Mhm.
so many things back even just in the 50s when I was born,
Mhm.
things were so bad and we didn't know it. We just like all us I'm just going to go white on this conversation.
Oh, all good.
You speak about what you know.
Yep.
White people were so bad and they were so racist against so many groups of people. And I don't understand it. The minute I talk to anybody and they start thinking that they're better than any other group, I'm out. Count me out. Because, you know, we're all just trying to survive. We're human beings, for God's sake.
Mhm. Yeah. And then we also I get this like a lot, like because like part of my like half of my family, like my mom's side of the family, like they have a Confederate flag in their basement, um, that they won't take down, which is and it's so odd because they're like decent people, right? Like they have, I wouldn't say friends of like every race, but they're nice to people. Like they'll, say hello to everybody. But that's like one thing they like can't seem to like understand. And it was like funny because like that flag has been in their basement like since I was, like born, like even before I was born. And then in like seventh grade, we were learning about the Civil War in history class. And then then I like went back to their house and I was like, oh, like I saw that, that flag in a textbook and it wasn't for, I think, the right side. And so we like had a whole like conversation about it. And I was like, really like, don't feel comfortable with this. And they were like, okay, well, like take it down, but this is our house and like, we can do what we want. And then I come back like a year later or whatever, and it's like right back up. Yeah. And so I was just like, huh, this is interesting. But the Christmas presents are good, so gotta keep that, connection. But but yeah, like it's super crazy how like polarized like the world is right now.
Isn't
Uh
it? It's horrible.
yeah. And especially like when you can like love people and you can be like, it's family. This is like, the one group of people like you always have their back for. And to see it like, just kind of disconnect based off of like, I don't know if it's like ego or like whatever it is. And and like that side of the family was like Polish. And they had to change their last name. Ironically enough, like their last name was Kukluski before, and had to change their name to Conrad. And so they understand like the struggle of, assimilating into a different place and whatnot, but they can't see it past, okay, there's people that look different than me and are going through an experience, and how do we work that out? That's very difficult for them.
My gosh. So, so they were Polish and they adopted you, right? Am I following this right?
Yeah. So yeah. Mhm.
Now, did they immigrate after, like, did they go through the Holocaust or have relatives that did in Poland?
So we were like all like Catholic. Um, and so they came there, and then my parents, like both of my parents were raised in like the Midwest. So my dad was from Indiana, my mom's from Michigan. Um, and so they're just like kind of had like a blue collar sort of like upbringing and stuff, then went to college, um, and then moved to New York and worked and stuff. And yeah, and raised me and my two siblings.
Well, thank God that they raised you and your siblings, but
Mm.
the whole thing about the flag really is annoying at best.
Yeah, no, it's annoying, but I think my parents have been like super like supportive of like my upbringing and stuff, and definitely don't, represent the Confederacy. But yeah, and I mean even with that, like it's interesting talking to people because the Confederate flag means very different things to people. So like, my grandparents have the flag as like a thing like, oh, like screw the government, we don't want them like on our backs and stuff and like controlling everything. Um, and so that's their usage of it. Like it's not in like a pro-slavery way. Um, but it's also like understanding the fact that there's also, a double meaning to it. It's a double entendre and like understanding how other people might perceive that, I think is quite important.
And how painful it might be to you and your siblings to have that flag around.
Yeah, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I don't know, you said that you looked at a couple of my interviews. My parents survived the Holocaust.
mm, mm,
So I've seen a lot of hatred and, I've even seen it where people who have gone through the Holocaust harbor hatred and you just can't, you know, hate against hate never wins.
mm.
So you got to learn to love no matter how you used to, not you, I'm not preaching at you, but people that are listening, no matter how you get treated, you got to learn to rise above it and love back because hate's not going to get nowhere.
No, 100%. And yeah, and I think that's a great message. And I think for like the listeners and stuff, there's also like a lot of great music about, you know, being oppressed, but also channeling that into love instead of hatred. And
Yeah,
so like Bob Marley, I've been listening to him a lot and stuff, like watch his movie, like kind of, he's like it's the weird thing about like musicians, like great musicians and great actors and like whatnot, and also great comics is usually they have their idiosyncrasies when it comes to like being a decent person. um but if you can kind of separate the art from the artist as much as you can, like I think they have like some good messages. uh
absolutely. I mean, even the worst human being has the potential to have a great message or leave a legacy. And I
yeah.
don't know. We need to start finding the good in other people, even if people are bad, we need to look for that. That's what's hard for me is when people
Mm.
are being brats. To, okay, let me look beyond the facade of what they're trying to project and see oh, I really love your right shoe.
Yeah.
Not the left, just the right one.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. And there's
Gee,
always something beautiful about people. And I think that's like the cool thing about comedy too, where it's like no matter, what that person's going through or like what their beliefs are and stuff, at least for a certain amount of time, whether it's like 5 minutes or 20 minutes, you have the microphone. If they interject, like you have the upper hand, right? So you can kind of like come back with them and the crowd's going to be on your side. Uh,
yes,
and I think you can definitely plant some sort of seed in people's brain, even if it's not like the sort of like preaching comedy where it's like you have like a huge message, but it's even if it's just like jokes, like perhaps like they might be like, oh yeah, like like I see this person, they're from this background, and that's different, and I maybe shouldn't have a Confederate flag, on my bumper sticker or whatever. And so I think Like I like that about comedy a lot.
Do you do jokes about your family having those that Confederate flag?
Well, so I used to. So I started out like doing comedy kind of on that sort of like precedent where I was like, all right, like I'm a black guy, like adopted by a white family. Like I have no idea exactly where I fit in like whatever. So I was like, oh, like comedy, like that's the perfect thing. And so like a lot of my material was like about like, being adopted and stuff like that. And then like after like maybe like 2 or 3 months of like doing comedy, like open mics in LA, I realized like I don't really want to be that comedian where it's just like, oh, he's different. Because like my whole thing was like I want to like assimilate with people. I want to feel like normal. Um, and so then I like really kind of stopped talking about all that stuff. And I've gone to like feedback mics and things like that, and people have been like, "Hey, you got to talk about being adopted. That's gonna make you big, man." And yeah, and I just kind of felt like and this might be a component too. Like my parents have like gone to like, bringer shows like last year when I like needed to do those things and like auditions and things. And so that was definitely like awkward talking about like my experience in like a joking manner like with them. But I just like realized I enjoy like the joke telling. I enjoy like the kind of constructing a joke and the art of that so much more than I do kind of like trauma dumping on like an audience. Um, so I've been talking to like the counselor at like school and stuff to deal with like those things, but definitely I try to keep comedy like really just like jokes and things I find funny, and I feel like that's kind of been like a good mixture.
That's awesome. So let's go back a little. What were you like? You said that you came from Johannesburg, South Africa,
Yep.
and I have a relative that moved there after World War II. So I
Hmm.
have ties to Johannesburg.
Uh,
And you came here very young in life, didn't you say at age 2?
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Wow. So you don't really remember being in Johannesburg unless you're super smart. Um,
Now
so
this, yeah.
what are some of your first memories growing up?
First memories. Um, so when I was like born, I was born 3 months premature. And so I had like a lot of like health issues and stuff. Um, Kind of like my earliest memories, like all the things I can really remember were like being in the hospital. Like I had like really severe asthma. And so I was in the hospital like quite a lot. Um, but I think the greatest memories I had, like even at like those times where like I had no idea really what was going on. I was just like, why am I like sick so much? And like, why do I feel horrible? Was just like my parents like love for me and like my older brother, like his love for me. Um, and like I think that goes like a long way. Like no matter how old you are, like when you're sick, like you want to give up a lot and stuff, even if you don't know exactly what's happening. But feeling people's love were really like the first memories I had. Um,
Wow.
and so yeah, that kept me kind of like pushing and stuff. And then yeah, like preschool, like I was really like up to no good. Like from like basically like preschool to like high school to like junior year of high school, I was really just like a silly guy, kind of like a class clown. Like I wasn't too like academically like smart, but went to like a pretty prestigious high school where like a lot of people were quite, sharp tools. Um, so yeah, I always just like made jokes and stuff to kind of like be different and I guess like stand out and like feel heard. Um, and
So
and so that
what
was
what
kind
were
of
your
like,
sorry,
nope, all good.
I interrupted you. I see this thing freezing on my end. So just a
Um,
second.
is your screen frozen or is mine?
I don't know. I think it'll make it look like mine is, and maybe it'll look like yours is, but
Hmm.
Hopefully it won't cut us out of here. Oh, are you there,
Yep, I'm
Calder?
here.
Oh, good. All right.
Hello?
So, hello, hello.
Yep.
Okay. So, what did you do after right after high school? What did you do?
So right after high school, I went to college. So I like grew up like again like in New York, went to school in the Bronx. Um, and then like that was like right during like COVID and stuff. And um junior year of high school, I like ran for like co-president of like our high school. Because like one of my other friends was running and I was like, okay, I'll bet you $20 that like I'll win instead of you. And then basically just like found like a white girl to like run with me. Because I was like, okay, like we have to like, get our constituents and stuff like on our side and whatnot. And that person like became like my best friend like ever. Um, and and that was like amazing. And then like I kind of like realized like, okay, like even though I have like this imposter syndrome sort of thing where I'm like, okay, like you won this thing, like it must have been like your parents, like, you know, I don't know, like bribed the school or something. Like I still like to this day can't like really understand how I like won that election. But after that I kind of like realized, okay, like you have like some sort of potential, people like you. And so then I was like, okay, like let's go to college and let's like put some effort into like the college application process. Um, and so then I ended up going to school in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, and so I was there for 2 years, which was an interesting experience. Yeah.
So, at what point in your life did you jump on stages and do comedy?
So that was when I was in Los Angeles. So like I've always like done like music and stuff, like played saxophone like in the jazz band and whatnot. Like recorded music and things like that, just like in my basement at home. Um, but when I was in college in LA, I was just having like kind of like a rough like freshman year. And which like kind of everybody has, but like I had it where I was like, oh, like, I was watching all those like podcasts and stuff during COVID, really like
Mhm.
got into comedy. I was like, hey, like I want to try this out. But like I didn't have like the balls to like go on stage. And so like all of my like I would say like comedy, because it wasn't even like really funny. Um, it was like in like friendships and like friend groups and stuff, and like I had like friend groups be like, oh, like we don't think this is funny. And then I was like, oh man, like I gotta prove to these people that I got jokes and like this is funny. So then I like went to my first open mic at this place called Tao Comedy Studio in
Yeah,
Korea.
Bobby
Yeah.
Oliver.
Yep, Bobby, yeah. um and yeah, and I didn't do great, but I did well enough to keep going. Um, and so I guess like the rest is kind of history at that point.
Super. And so you've been in New York a while and you're regularly at Broadway Comedy Club. Talk to us about being a regular at Broadway Comedy Club. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's interesting because like I think this is like it's a weird kind of next step, I guess. Like whenever I did comedy and stuff, like I would tell, and this was like a weird thing with like anything. Like I played soccer like my whole life too. And whenever I like went to like, recruiting camps for like college and things like that, like I'd always tell the people, like the other players, I'd be like, hey, like, I'm playing soccer now, but I really do music. And then I'd go to like music camps and I'd be like, hey, I'm doing music, but I really play soccer. And then like doing comedy, I'm like, I've been like, yeah, like I'm doing comedy, but I really do like, schoolwork. Um, but this has been like the first time, I guess, where it's become something where it's like I'm doing comedy and like I guess I'm a comedian. Um, and
Hilarious.
and that's kind of like nice to it's a nice feeling to feel. And so Broadway's cool. Like I was there until like 1:30 in the morning, like last night, or I guess technically like today. Um,
Yeah.
and it's nice. Like it's like four shows or like sometimes like five or six shows a night.
Wow.
Um, and it it's crazy seeing like the different crowds all the time. Like it's a lot of tourist people. Like the barkers will like bark and stuff, and they'll be like, "Hey, like Pete Davidson's been at this club," and then like people are like, "Oh, we're gonna see Pete Davidson," and then you like go to the show, and Pete Davidson's not there. He's either like in rehab or banging some really attractive lady out of his league. Um, but yeah, but it's just like super cool, and it's been a great experience, and all the comics are great. Um,
Now it froze up. Are you there? Are you there? Calder? Calder?
yep. Hello.
Calder? Hi. We're having internet issues, but keep going and try wrapping it up in the next few minutes with your social media and upcoming shows, please. Oh, why didn't it say so? Just a second. This stupid thing. 1 second. One little second. I see the problem.